From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Brayden Neville.
On today's episode, Kevin Glenn joins the show to discuss some of his favorite Grey Cup memories, and returning to Hamilton for this year's Grey Cup Festival. Jamall Johnson will also be returning to Hamilton next week and discusses some of his favorite Ticats memories and his new career in acting on one of Netflix's biggest shows. It's Thursday, November 9th, 2023, and you're listening to Ticats Today, the lead up to the 110th Grey Cup at Tim Hortons Field. As we approach closer and closer to this year's 110th Grey Cup, I'm going to be chatting with tons of alumni leading up to the big game, as I have been throughout this week. And joining me now is the CFL's sixth all-time leader in passing yards and former Ticats QB, Kevin Glenn. Kevin, thanks for joining me today, man.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
You're going to be making your way to Hamilton for this year's Grey Cup Festival. Are you excited to be back in the Hammer and to experience the city again?
Yeah, I came up this summer and it was a great atmosphere, but to be back, during this time of Grey Cup, I think it's going to be pretty good. It's going to be wonderful. I know that a lot of people are going to be waiting for the Wandering Glens to come out.
Yes. And I mean, Hamilton's such a special place for football. It's a football city, but what makes it so special when it comes to you and in your experiences in Hamilton and around this atmosphere of the Grey Cup?
I think more so the fans, and I think a lot of CFL players will say that when you go to different cities, the way that they embrace you, in the community and the fans, the way they're supportive and back you, is like no other. I experienced it this summer when I came up. Hadn't been back in Canada, at a live game in years. But when you get back there and you're sitting outside the stadium doing an autograph session, and the amount of individuals that come up and tell you all these different stories about when they met you the first time, and if they're wearing your practice jersey with all the different teams, logos that are stitched on them, it's like I said, it's like no other. So I would say more so the fans, especially in Hamilton.
What was that experience like for you in the summer to come back and to be honored the way you were?
Oh, it was awesome, man. It was awesome to get a chance to walk through the tunnels. And, one thing that everybody was asking me, like, I never got a chance to play as a home, guy as far as Hamilton was concerned in that new stadium.
Yes, true.
I was always a visitor.
Yeah.
So getting a chance to walk through the locker room and kind of walk out the tunnel and everything, it felt good. It felt real good. My family was up there with me, so they got a chance to experience it. My daughter it was like she was the starting quarterback on the team, the way she was walking out the tunnel with the smoke and everything.
Yeah, that must have been a cool experience. What did they think, like your family think, when they got to actually experience that with you?
Oh, they loved it. Like I said, my daughter, she thinks she's a celebrity, and my son enjoyed it. My wife, it was great. It was great to kind of be away from it for a while and then come back and still receive the cheers, and the acknowledgement, from that organization. But as well as the fans was great. It was really nice.
I want to go back in time here and take you back to your first year in Hamilton and being able to take a team that hadn't made the playoffs in 5 years and bring them to the playoffs. What was that run like? And that season in particular, that first year you had with the Ticats?
So that first year was kind of interesting, because I came in as kind of a backup, more so mentor. Quentin Porter was the starter at the time. But I had a lot of familiar faces in the coaching on the coaching staff. I was connected with a lot of the guys that were on the coaching staff, whether I played with them or was coached by them before. So it was a really, really comfortable fit. I would say at that time in my career, my son was just born. So there was a lot of things, playing not just on the field, but in my life when I first got to Hamilton. But it was a great time. And the one thing that I can talk about that year and that team, we were young,
yeah,
but we had a lot of veteran guys who kind of, I think, brung those younger guys along, because a lot of those younger guys that was on that team had like very good careers. Some stayed at Hamilton and some end up leaving and going other places. But I think the veterans on that team did a very good job of putting their arms around those younger guys and bringing them along. And like you said, it was 5 years, since Hamilton had a playoff game. We didn't get a chance to win that playoff game. I think it was a home game versus Toronto. Yeah, so but we didn't get to win the game, but that whole year, I think it was a learning lesson for myself, as far as being a complete team player,
Hmm.
taking kind of the backseat role, but also knowing that at any given time you may have to go in and play, and be the leader of the team to create or to put the team in a position to kind of be successful.
Well, if you can, I've been asking a lot of guys about Iverwin and that legendary stadium, but do you have any memories that stick out to you? It could be one or two, but do you have any memories that stick out to you about old Iverwin and playing there?
Man, I have a couple, man. Coming in as visitors, as a visiting team or the home team, you can see uh, fans sitting on top of roofs, actually watching the game. The old dugouts,
Hmm.
sideline dugouts. It was times where I played in Winnipeg where, you know, uh, there were guys on the team in Winnipeg who would not come out the dugout because if the Hamilton spectators and the fans seen the last name on the back of your jersey, or they were making jokes about you. So, and then the one that I can remember is Dave Stoller's touchdown. Uh, I can't remember what year it was, but Dave Stoller caught a touchdown, and he did this little trick with the football as if it was a soccer ball, and literally kicked it, I think, out of the stadium. So and went into the street and everything. So it was those type of things that made Ivor win. You know.
Hmm. We're currently in some playoff football here. We're going to see at the end of Saturday who's going to be playing in this Grey Cup. But what are some playoff memories you have, or some times where you were in tight playoff battles? And I know you've been in quite a few playoff games, so I'm sure it's hard to pick one. But if you can think of a game that you goes back in your memory as one of the most exciting for you, what would it be?
I would say I'm gonna pick one, and I'm gonna pick a Hamilton game. I was playing in
Yeah.
Hamilton. I think it was the second year BC crossed over to come play us, and in the first round, and I think I may have gotten hurt. And so I went out, and I think I went to the locker room, to the training room, and I think it was my knee or something, and they kind of maybe taped it up or something, and put a brace on it or something. And as I came back running out of the tunnel, onto the field, the response from the crowd. I mean, I still get chills talking about it.
Yeah.
I got chills through my body, running on that field through that end zone. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And the way that the crowd was roaring and screaming, it felt like that's something that I think every person that plays professionally or play this sport should be able to witness and feel that kind of excitement, run through your body and that adrenaline. So,
Hmm.
um, and that was another one. That was a big game. I think we may have went into like double overtime. And they ended up beating us that game, but it was a really hard fought game. And like I said, that the excitement from the crowd was one that sticks out,
Hmm.
very, very vividly in my mind, when we played that game in Hamilton.
The one thing that the Ticats unfortunately won't be in this year's Grey Cup at Tim Hortons Field, but there's going to be two teams, and the environment is going to be electric no matter who's in this game. But you having been a part of Grey Cups, what is that environment like? What's that feeling like in the air and that atmosphere in the crowd when you're in a Grey Cup game?
Oh man, it's awesome. It's a lot of lights, cameras, screaming, yelling. You have to really be tunnel vision on what's going on the field, because
Hmm.
you can easily get distracted,
Yeah.
So, a lot of times, especially guys with teams with younger players on their team, sometimes struggle early on, in that game because it's so much going on. And so you got to be, a mature player in order to know that, all this stuff is going around you, but you kind of got to block it out, and
Hmm.
that's just the way it is. And it's not just the actual game either; it's the whole week because there's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff that goes into that week with media, with different video promos and the different luncheons that you have to go to, team luncheons, where you're sitting, up on the podium, and it's just a lot. It's a lot going on. At the same time, you have family in town that's, trying to meet and see you, that is trying to congratulate you. You have different events that you have to go to.
Hmm.
You still want to enjoy kind of the festivities that's going on, but you still have to practice and you still have
Yeah.
to watch film and you still have a curfew and all that. So it's a lot, going on. it's like a whole season packed into 1 week.
Yes. Yeah. The festivities are crazy. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
as a fan, it's amazing because there's so much you could do. But
it is.
as
It's
a
so much to
player,
do.
it must be hard to pick and choose as a player what you can do and where you can go. And it must be difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's difficult, and you got to know that you're there for one reason, and that's to get the cup, and to win the cup. So you have to sometimes be disciplined and not partake in some of the festivities. But at the end of the day, I think some guys you still want to be able to enjoy it, because a lot of guys don't get there
Hmm.
and don't get a chance to experience this. So you want to be able to experience the whole gamut of everything that goes on that week.
I want to go to your time in Winnipeg, and one of the most dynamic duos that sticks out in my mind in the history of the CFL is you, Milt Stiegel. What was that relationship like with him and playing with him back in those years? And how is it today? How are you guys still as close as you were
Oh
back
yeah.
then on the field?
Oh yeah, we still talk, we still communicate. He's a busy man, commentating all those games and stuff. But we still communicate, we still talk to this day. And it was a great connection. I would say I can describe it as like it was like a big brother, little brother type of situation. It was one of those things where it's like I could look at him before he was running a route and know what decision that he was going to make, before he made it. And he kind of knew Kevin's thinking, I'm going to make this decision. So I'm going to make this decision. So we were on a really, really good wavelength when it comes to, the on-field play and even off the field. Our families know each other. Like our wives knew each other. We spent a lot of time off the field. I still go back to the one reason why I don't eat pork is because it was a challenge from Milt Stiegel.
No way.
He basically said that I couldn't do it. He was
Really?
like, you could, he was, I was like, I can't do it. He was like, you can't stop eating pork. And it was a challenge. And I'm a competitive person, when it comes to different, certain things. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not gonna let him sit here and tell me that I can't do something. So I'm gonna do it. And it did help that running back into my wife at the time when I was in Winnipeg, we met back up.
Mhm.
She wasn't eating pork, so it was kind of a cool thing to that
Yeah.
I wasn't eating it. But I still I still tell people, they ask me to this day, like, why don't you eat pork? And I was like, because it was a challenge from Milt Stegall. And he was that type of guy. He was the type of guy that would challenge you in a good way,
Yeah.
but it was still friendly, and it still made it competitive. That's just what he was about, and bringing that out. And I think he brought that out in a lot of guys, and especially a lot of teammates that I played with there in Winnipeg.
Have you eaten pork yet, or has he
I
eaten pork?
haven't till this day. I haven't
Really?
since 2004.
So did you
That
win,
was
or is he still not eating pork as well?
No, he doesn't eat it either.
That's
That
great.
was the thing. He didn't eat it at the time, and so he was the one that was introducing me to turkey bacon and all that kind of stuff. So, and to this day, I still hold that. So I won the bet. I'm not eating. I didn't eat it.
That's got to
So
be one of the craziest bets I've ever heard in my life. But it's a healthy one. I mean, health wise, it's probably been great for you because I don't think pork's the best for you. But there's one game that sticks out to me with you and Milt. I believe he got 4 or 5 touchdowns. Just 4 touchdowns. You threw for 5.
touchdowns. It was four. Yeah, 4 touchdowns, 4 catches for 200 and something yards.
What was going on in that game? Can you talk me through that?
Uh, I don't know. I think he may have paid BC's defensive backfield to. He may have took him out to dinner the night before or breakfast that morning. I don't know, but um, we were just connected. We were connected that day in Winnipeg, and um, honestly, they were all the exact same route too.
Mm-hmm.
If you go
Yeah.
back and look, all the routes that he caught the touchdown, would have caught the 4 passes on, were all the same routes, and they were seam routes. I know back then in the day they played a lot of cover three, and once he got up the seam, it's one of those things. Like I knew what he was doing, he knew what I was thinking, and we connected.
You've now transitioned. You've put on the headset. You're a head coach now. What has that transition been like for you?
Oh, it's a lot. Sometimes when you get into coaching and it's like, oh man, I'm gonna be, I like this and the X's and O's and creating the game plans and all that kind of stuff. That's what I loved about the game. The whole like uh the mentality of trying to figure out what the other team is going to do and you counteract that kind of thing. So but being a head coach, you gotta employ coaches now.
Yeah.
So now you're not just a the leader of just, individuals as far as players are concerned. You're the leader of the coaching staff too.
Hmm.
You got to make sure that you put the right guys in position to be able to put the players in the right position as far as that's concerned. So it's a lot of thinking, a lot of maneuvering. I'm at a smaller school in Michigan, but I mean, we're still competitive.
Yeah.
Um, and then very, very similar to the high school, kind of the high school that I went to here in Michigan. So that's what kind of drew me back to this school. Um, but it's good. I like it. I like it. I like the fact that you get to make, the decisions on the field of whether to go for it on fourth down. So
Yeah.
those are like I said, I'm a competitive person. So that competitiveness that was on the field still runs through me as a coach.
And I was looking at how you guys are doing. You guys look like you're doing a great job so far this season. So congrats. And I know it's not an easy job to transition to coaching, but it seems like you've been able to do it seamlessly. You're heading to Hamilton. What are you most excited about for returning here?
I'm excited about seeing the fans, actually, being able to participate and watch the game
Hmm.
in person, the Grey Cup game in person. That was always one thing that, I only think I did it, I think 2 other times. I
Hmm.
think I had an opportunity to actually watch a game in person, Grey Cup in person that I wasn't playing in.
Yeah.
So just to do that, to see some of the old teammates being around there and just catching up with some of the guys. I think my first ever Grey Cup was 2004. It was
Yep.
in Ottawa, and it was between Toronto and BC. So me and my wife the other night was having a conversation. She was like, "Who you think will win, and who you want?" I said it would be cool to see BC versus Toronto,
Yeah.
just because that was the first Grey Cup that I ever attended, and I got some mutual, some friends that are in the coaching rams, both teams. Not saying that I don't have any in Winnipeg and Montreal, but it
Hmm.
would be cool to see the Toronto BC.
It would be a unique game. I don't know if
Yeah.
Ticats fans agree with seeing Toronto in the Grey Cup,
I
but
know
I can
that.
totally
I know.
understand where you're coming from. Kevin, I appreciate you joining me on the show today, man. You're going to be in Hamilton next week. You're going to be at a ton of events around the city, and it's going to be awesome to have you, and I'm sure fans will be excited to see Kevin Glenn back in the Hammer. So once again, thanks for joining me, man.
Thank you. I appreciate for having me.
That was Kevin Glenn. Big thanks to him for being on today's show. My next guest is a former Ticats linebacker and 2006 Grey Cup champion and has now made a successful career for himself in acting, and you can see him on the Netflix show The Night Agent along with tons of other films and shows. Jamall Johnson, thanks for joining me today, man.
Brayden, man, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I have to get into this right away. Post football, you got into acting. Was that something you always wanted to do? Was that something you were already doing, or is that something you got into after football?
Yeah, it was kind of new to me, Brayden. I kind of stumbled into it. When I reflect now that I'm fully immersed in it, when I was a kid growing up watching shows like Martin or like the In Living Color, like just like a couple sketch comedy shows, I can recall like imitating characters that I've seen on TV, messing around with family and friends. But I've always kind of been a little bit camera shy too. So yeah, honestly, I never in a million years imagined I'd be an actor, but destiny, wow, as fate has it, I kind of stumbled into it and then fell in love with it and found some of the same passions I had as a pro athlete playing football, and try and tap into some of that as I continue learning and growing in this game.
When you're a little kid, normally they'll ask you what you want to be when you're older, and you'll either say a professional athlete or an actor. That's normally the two things you hear, and you've touched on both. So it looks like you're doing pretty well. You were on the show The Night Agent, which is a big Netflix show. I've watched it. What was it like getting that role, and what was the process like when you heard you were going to be on the show?
That was awesome, man. Acting is like it's like sports, like team sports, right? You try out for a team, right? Especially if you go like little league or like high school. I remember getting cut from my middle school team. So those no's I've had, of being traded or whatever, things like that. I've
Mm-hmm.
built up a little bit of callous for some of the rejection that happens in this industry. But the Night Agent was interesting. I auditioned for one role, a different role, as another FBI agent, and they told me that they wanted somebody older, but they called me and they said, "Hey, we have another spot of like character we'd like you to play. If you're available and if you're interested." The guy didn't have a name or whatnot, but they just thought I'd be a good fit for it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was stoked to take it on, and it was a lot of fun, man. I've been auditioning for and working on other things where it's, I don't know, like Hallmarky and smiling,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's kind of like, I'm a smiley dude. I'm always kind of, kind of nonchalant and smiling, and I can talk to most people, but this role was fun because I got to tap into some of that intensity, like, that which was close to, like, I'm sacking a quarterback, or it's an intent, a big moment in the game. The character I got to play was protect. He was a Secret Service agent protecting the president, and so to live in that kind of that space of high intensity, high stakes, was fun, and I look forward to doing more of that.
Well, watching your performance, and I did watch a few clips before this, you do an excellent job. There's one scene where there's helicopters everywhere. It's intense, and so make sure to check that out, Ticats fans. That's The Night Agents on Netflix. Let's get into football, the CFL, the Grey Cup. It's in Hamilton. You're going to be here in Hamilton. Are you excited to be back in the Hammer to check out the festivities this year?
Yeah, man, I miss Hamilton. When I first arrived in Hamilton in 2009, it reminded me of my hometown. Norco, Louisiana, was surrounded by like some chemical plants, and it's a kind of working class town. And I fell in love with Hamilton from day one, and I'm looking forward. I always look forward to getting back out there. I got to come to the Grey Cup a couple of years ago when Hamilton hosted in the Ticats. Unfortunately, came up short in that game, but it was my first time taking in the Grey Cup, really taking it in as a spectator and as a fan, and I got to meet a lot of fans, get reintroduced to a lot of fans, spend some time with some of the alumni, former teammates, and I look forward to doing it and having a good time this year too.
Why do you think Hamilton's the perfect place for a Grey Cup festival? I mean, they're doing everything bigger and better this year, but why do you think this is a great spot for Canadian football?
I don't know. Well, first of all, like Hamilton's got some of the best fans I've ever been around, right? Growing up in the States, where football is king, that's the environment in Hamilton is almost like, there's not many other places that compare to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great place where the fans, they're knowledgeable about the game. They love the game. They're passionate about it, and it's just got that strong vibe, right? It's Steel Town, right?
The hard-nosed vibe.
Yeah, and playing in the elements, right? The last Grey Cup in Hamilton, it was pretty cold. There wasn't a lot of snow on the field, but that's the way football should be played. And to have the biggest game of the year played outdoors in a beautiful stadium at Tim Hortons Field is an amazing stadium. The fans, I think the fans deserve it, and the city deserves it. And what other place? Where else should it be other than the Hammer?
Absolutely, and I think everyone's excited. Every alumni guy I've talked to and every ex-player says the same thing, that this city is built for football. It is football crazy, and you really see that when you drive around the streets here. You see Ticats gear everywhere and flags everywhere. I want to go into your experience in Grey Cup games, and actually I want to start in the West Final in 2006. There was a play that really sticks out to me that you had. It was a 39-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown.
Yeah, no, that was my second year in the league, man, and I remember coming into a Lions team that had some success a couple years prior in 2004. 2005, we had a really good chance. We won like 13 games, lost in the West Finals to Edmonton. And then I believe we got to host it in BC again the following year in 2006. Yeah. And then we got to go on to the Grey Cup and played in Winnipeg. But I remember we had some great veterans on our team. Awesome coach Wally Bonner was one of the arguably the greatest or one of the best to ever do it in the CFL, right? And we had it like we were just clicking on all facets. We had a powerful offense. I played a lot of special teams, and I got some opportunities on defense as a young guy to play. And whenever I had my number called and was able to try and to make a play, I look forward to it. And so whenever I didn't get a lot of interceptions, but I scooped up a couple fumbles. That touchdown was, those are things you remember, those moments with your teams where you get to celebrate and, put us in position to be successful and go into another game. Those are the moments you live for.
What was it like to be a part of that Grey Cup in Winnipeg? And what were the elements like being in Winnipeg and playing in the Grey Cup in November? Because we all know how Winnipeg gets come wintertime, but what was it like in that particular game on that day?
Man, it's the biggest stage, right? We work all year. The process, coming into training camp, after a long off season of grinding and getting your body prepared for a long season, for it all to culminate into that big day, is kind of what everyone looks forward to, and everyone sets that goal at the beginning of the year. And you don't I grew up in Louisiana. It's hot, man. You don't look. I wasn't fully prepared for. I think it was like minus 30 or something in Winnipeg when we arrived. There was snow on the ground. The field was, solid, frozen solid. But you go out in warm ups and you get yourself used to it, and you get that adrenaline going. And when they fly, when the fighter jets fly over, they sing the national anthem. Like, you black out. You kind of have that tunnel vision. You don't feel it. You don't feel all the cold. You don't hear all the noise from the outside. And it's just you and your guys, going to battle and trying to get that cup and hoist it for the fans of your home city.
And what was it like to win that Grey Cup? I mean, the feeling of being a champion and finally accomplishing the goal only in your second year in the league.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. It's a moment you cherish, right? Because we fight for that every year. And it doesn't come around that often. Some people, play long careers and they never get to experience once, let alone, multiple times. So I remember having the game ended on a goal line stand. Our defense, stepped up. Javi Glatt, Otis Floyd, a former teammate in Hamilton as well. They made a beautiful goal line stand against Anthony Calvillo and his guys. And so to win it in that type of a fashion as a defensive guy and a special teams player, man, it's almost the greatest feeling. And it's kind of cliche, but it's an amazing feeling. You get to celebrate it with your guys. Like I said, you battle off season training camp. You have a long CFL season's extremely long, right? It's 18 games at the time. Yeah, and I think it's 19 now, right? So for it all to come to a goal line stand, and we get to hoist that cup, get to celebrate. There's a parade you get to, you look forward to when you come back home, and it's the greatest feeling as an athlete. And we all cherish that. I definitely cherish that.
I could only imagine the memory. You made your way to Hamilton 2009, and you had your best statistical season tackles-wise. I believe it was a total of 117 tackles. What was it about that season and that first year in Hamilton that made you really explode as a player on that defense?
Again, man, I was hungry. Definitely, and I wasn't a full-time starter in BC when I was in BC. I love playing special teams, and whenever I got my opportunities on defense, I tried to make the most of them. But we had some great players, when I arrived in BC, and I was grateful that Bob Bilovich left BC and went to Hamilton and remembered my name, and I was able to get an opportunity there. And there were some familiar faces in the locker room when I showed up, which made the transition a little bit easier for me. Otis Floyd, as I mentioned, Markeith Knowlton, who was a defensive MVP. Matt Kirk was on our defensive line, the guy that I played with in BC. So there were a lot of familiar faces, and I was able to come in there and pick up the defense. Greg Marshall was our defensive coordinator. Yeah. And it was a great, I was extremely hungry. I was relishing that moment to become a full-time starter, and it took 4 years for it to happen. And again, I just try to make plays and help my team win when I can and do what I can. But we had an amazing defensive line, like I said, Matt Kirk. We had awesome guys. Justin Hickman was on that defensive line, right? And I played on the weak side, and those guys, made my job easier. We worked together, and we were in sync, and they allowed me to float around and move around and make some plays, and it culminated into, a number of tackles. Again, Coach Marshall had an awesome defense that I loved playing in. And I was happy to be a part of that team that helped get Hamilton kind of back, on the winning side of things. And I was grateful to be a part of that crew.
Is there any memory that sticks out to you about the old Ivor win and playing there? Anything you can think of if you go back into the memory bank?
There's so many, man. Like I said, the fans in Hamilton were amazing, man.
Yeah.
And I just loved how intimate that stadium was, right? We had the dugout, the fans were right behind us. The faces that are imprinted in my mind from looking up into the stadium, the kids that would show up with their parents, right, giving high fives and cheering us on. That's the thing I missed about that stadium and loved about it. It was just so intimate. And we had a lot of fun moments on that field, right? I made a couple nice, had a couple big sacks. Get some great, players in this league in that stadium. But yeah, the fans, how close the fans were. That was the thing that I love most about Ireland.
Yeah, it's a crazy stadium, and it's such a legendary place people will always talk about the old Ivor win and the memories they had while they were there. There's a lot going on for this year's Grey Cup Festival, and you're going to be a part of several things. But what are you looking forward to most about returning to Hamilton? I mean, there's a lot of performers, there's different things going on, but what are you most excited about when it comes to coming back and being around these Ticats fans again?
Yeah, just the people, man. That's the biggest thing for me. I haven't seen some of my teammates that in a while, so I always get to reconnect. I know Dave Stahl is a local guy. Yeah, Peter Dowski. I'll probably get to bump into Joaquin Bradley. He was a defensive back when I loved playing with Joaquin. Man. I know he but he was a physical defensive back. So it's always great to reconnect with guys and get to see him in person and touch and give him a hug and handshake. And then interacting with the fans, man. It's they make this league. They're one of the reasons we love doing what we do, and they show up every week faithfully to watch our games. So just that's the biggest thing for me, right? The people, teammates, seeing fans, seeing some of the guys from the business side of things as well. Just being able to reach out and connect and touch the people.
Well, Jamall, it was great to have you on the show today. Ticats fans, Jamall Johnson, he'll be in Hamilton for this year's Grey Cup festivities. And Jamall, it's great to see what you're doing outside of football now. Super cool. It just so happened to be on a show that I watched with my girlfriend. So that was crazy to see. And man, I wish you all the best. And I'm excited to see you in the Hammer next week.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it too, man. Thanks for having me, Brayden. And Oscar Wee Wee, baby.
Big thanks to Jamall Johnson and Kevin Glenn for being on today's show. Before we go, Ticats fans, a reminder that the annual Hamilton Santa Claus Parade, that's right, the big man himself, will be coming downtown to Hamilton in the heart of the 2023 Grey Cup Festival. This year, there will be a football twist with the addition of CFL cheer teams and the Grey Cup Trophy. That's right, the Holy Grail will be in attendance. It's the Hamilton Santa Claus and Grey Cup Parade presented by WeatherTech, and it's happening on Saturday, November 18th. For more information, go to greycupfestival.ca/events. That's all the time for me today. I want to thank you for listening to this special episode of Ticats Today, the lead up to the 110th Grey Cup.